The champagne glass shattered against marble. Designer fabric, ripped like paper. 3 women laughed. Alexandra stood frozen. Her elegant gown, hanging in tatters around her trembling body. The entire bar fell silent. Every eye witnessing her humiliation. They called her ordinary. Mocked her simple background. Sneered at her discount jewelry. What they didn't know. The man walking through that door, the one who would make them beg on their knees, was her husband, Xavier Steele. Billionaire. And he'd just heard everything. Some moments change everything for Alexandra Chen. That moment came at the Meridian Lounge, Manhattan's most exclusive bar, where the elite gathered to see and be seen. She never wanted to be there. But her husband's business partner was celebrating a major deal, and spouses were expected to attend. So she put on her best dress, a beautiful emerald gown she'd saved for months to buy, and walked into a world where she'd never quite belonged. Alexandra sat at the bar, nursing a glass of sparkling water, feeling the weight of designer labels and inherited wealth pressing in from all sides. She'd been married to Xavier for 2 years, but she still felt like an outsider in his world. Not because of him. Xavier loved her deeply, and never made her feel less than. But because of them. The society wives. The trust fund daughters. The women who measured worth in carats and pedigree. Well. If it isn't the little charity case. Alexandra's spine stiffened. She recognized that voice. Victoria Ashford, flanked by her usual entourage, Madison Pierce and Natasha Lorraine. 3 women who'd made it their mission to remind Alexandra that she didn't belong. Ladies, Alexandra replied coolly, not turning around. Victoria circled to face her, designer clutch dangling from manicured fingers. That's an interesting dress. Is it from last season? Or did you find it at one of those outlet stores you people shop at? Madison giggled, a sound like breaking glass. Oh Vicky, be nice. Maybe it's vintage. That's what poor people call old clothes, right? Alexandra felt heat rising in her cheeks, but she kept her voice steady. It's new actually. I bought it for tonight. How much did it cost? Natasha leaned in, mock curiosity, dripping from every word. Let me guess. $200, $300. Does it matter? Alexandra started to stand, wanting to escape this confrontation. It matters, Victoria said sharply, placing a hand on Alexandra's shoulder and pushing her back onto the bar stool with surprising force. Because you're wearing discount store trash. To an event with Manhattan's finest. It's embarrassing for everyone. Especially for your husband. The bar hit its mark. Alexandra's greatest fear had always been that she would somehow diminish Xavier. That her ordinary background would reflect poorly on the man she loved more than anything. Xavier has never complained about what I wear, Alexandra said quietly. Of course not, Madison laughed. Men like Xavier Steele don't marry women like you for your fashion sense. We all know why he married you. She paused meaningfully. Convenience. A moment of rebellion slumming it before settling down with someone appropriate. The words stung. But Alexandra had heard variations of this cruelty before. She had learned to let it roll off her back. If you'll excuse me. We're not done, Victoria snapped. She grabbed Alexandra's arm as she tried to leave. You know what your problem is? You don't know your place. You come to these events wearing your pathetic little dresses. Pretending you're one of us, but you're not. You'll never be. Let go of me, Alexandra said, her voice trembling now, despite her best efforts. You want to know what we really think? Natasha moved closer, boxing Alexandra in against the bar. We think you're a gold digger who got lucky. We think Xavier will eventually wake up and realize he married the help. We think that you're a joke, Victoria finished. An embarrassment. Look at you. That dress probably costs less than my shoes. Your jewelry is cubic zirconia. Your handbag is a knockoff. Everything about you screams ordinary, boring, common, cheap. The bar had gone quiet around them. Other patrons were watching now. Some pretending not to but clearly listening. Alexandra felt exposed, vulnerable, like a butterfly pinned to a board for examination. Please, Alexandra whispered. Just leave me alone. Or what? Madison challenged. What are you going to do? Run and tell Xavier that the mean girls were picking on you? Hayes not your protector, sweetheart. Hayes probably upstairs right now regretting every decision that led him to you. Something inside Alexandra cracked. 2 years of snide comments, subtle insults and social isolation came flooding back. Every time she'd been excluded from lunch invitations, every conversation that stopped when she entered a room, every pitying look from Xavier's business associates, who clearly thought had made a terrible mistake. Tears pricked at her eyes, and she hated herself for showing weakness in front of these predators. "Oh my God, she's going to cry," Victoria announced loudly enough for half the bar to hear. "How pathetic, you can't even handle a little honest feedback." "It's not feedback," Alexandra said, her voice stronger now. "It's bullying. Your bullies, all of you." "Bullies?" Natasha laughed. "We're doing you a favor. Someone needs to tell you the truth. You're out of your depth. You're playing dress up in a world you don't understand. And that dress." She reached out and fingered the fabric of Alexandra's gown. "It's really quite hideous." What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Natasha grabbed the delicate strap of Alexandra's dress and pulled. The fabric, beautiful but not built for rough treatment, tore with a sickening ripping sound. Victoria, encouraged by Natasha's boldness, grabbed the other side and yanked hard. Madison, drunk on cruelty and champagne, tugged at the hem. The dress shredded. Expensive fabric that Alexandra had saved 3 months to afford came apart in their hands, like tissue paper. Beading scattered across the floor. The bodice hung in tatters. Alexandra stood frozen in shock and horror. Her dress, quite literally torn from her body, leaving her standing in the middle of Manhattan's most exclusive lounge in nothing but her slip and torn fabric hanging from her waist. The entire bar fell silent. Complete, absolute, devastating silence. Victoria held a fistful of green fabric, her expression one of cruel satisfaction. "Oops," she said with mock innocence. "I guess it wasn't very well made after all. Cheap things fall apart, so is..." Tears streamed down Alexandra's face. Now she couldn't stop them. The humiliation was so complete, so total, that her mind couldn't fully process it. She stood there, trembling, arms wrapped around herself, surrounded by the shredded remains of her beautiful dress. Madison was laughing so hard she had to lean against the bar. Natasha looked pleased with herself. Victoria surveyed her handiwork with the satisfaction of someone who had just won a major victory. "Look at her," Victoria said loudly, addressing the watching crowd. "This is what happens when you try to be something you're not. This is what happens when someone like her tries to play in our world." The laughter from the 3 women echoed through the silent bar, cruel and sharp. Alexandra wanted to disappear. Wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. Wanted to be anywhere but here, standing half naked in her ruined dress, surrounded by the elite of Manhattan society, who had just witnessed her complete and utter humiliation. And then the door opened. The sound of footsteps on marble cut through the silence. Heavy, deliberate, commanding. Alexandra looked up through her tears, and her heart stopped. Xavier, her husband, stood in the doorway, and the expression on his face made everyone in the bar take an instinctive step back. Xavier Steele was not a man who showed emotion easily. He was known in business circles as the Ice King, a billionaire who had built his empire through calculated moves and ruthless decision-making. But right now, looking at his wife standing in tatters, surrounded by laughing women, his face showed something that made even Victoria stop smiling. Pure, undiluted rage. "How long have you been standing there?" Victoria asked, her voice suddenly uncertain. "Long enough," Xavier said quietly. But his voice carried through the entire room like thunder. He moved toward Alexandra, shrugging off his jacket as he walked. When he reached her, he wrapped it around her shoulders, gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly, his hands on her shoulders, his eyes searching her face. She shook her head, unable to speak. Xavier turned to face Victoria, Madison, and Natasha, his expression colder than Alexandra had ever seen it. "You tore my wife's dress," he said. "It wasn't a question." Victoria recovered her composure, trying to smile. "It was an accident, Xavier. We were just what." He cut her off, his voice deadly calm. "Just assaulting my wife. Just destroying her property. Just humiliating her in front of a room full of people. For what? For entertainment." "It wasn't like that," Madison tried, her voice shaking. "We were just having a little fun." "Fun," Xavier repeated. He looked at each of them in turn, and Alexandra saw them wilt under his gaze. "You call destroying someone's clothing and mocking them in public fun?" "Look," Xavier, Natasha tried. "We'll buy her a new dress." "Okay, well, make it right. We didn't know you were..." "Didn't know I was," what Xavier said, watching. "Didn't know I was married to her. Didn't know I love her. Didn't know that every word you said about her, every insult you threw her way, every time you've excluded her, or mocked her, or made her feel less than. I've heard about it. The three women went pale. You think she doesn't tell me, Xavier continued. You think I don't know about the lunch invitations she never receives, the charity events she's conveniently left off the guest list, the way you whisper when she walks into a room. I know everything. And I've been patient. I've let Alexandra handle it her way, because she's strong and capable, and doesn't need me to fight her battles. But this, he gestured, to the torn dress, the scattered beating, the tears on his wife's face. This crosses a line. Xavier, please, Victoria said, her voice pleading now. We made a mistake. A mistake, Xavier laughed. But there was no humor in it. A mistake is bumping into someone accidentally spilling a drink. What you did was deliberate, cruel, and calculated. You destroyed my wife's property. You assaulted her. And you humiliated her in public. And you did it because you could. Because you thought there would be no consequences. He pulled out his phone. What are you doing, Madison? Asked panic, creeping into her voice. Making some calls, Xavier said simply. First to my legal team. Assault and destruction of property should be straightforward charges. Then to my business partners. Your husband's work for me. Did you know that, Victoria? Your husband James is VP of Operations at Steele Industries. Madison, your husband runs the marketing division. And Natasha, your husband manages our investment portfolio. The women stared at him in horror. Xavier, you can't be serious, Victoria whispered. Can't I? Xavier looked at her over his phone. Tell me. Victoria, what do you think happens to executives whose wives assault the CEO's wife? What kind of judgment does that demonstrate? What does that say about their character, their family values? Please, Natasha said, tears starting to form in her eyes. Please don't do this. Don't do what Xavier said. Hold you accountable. Teach you that actions have consequences. Show you that you can't treat people like garbage without repercussions. Well, apologize, Madison said desperately. Well, apologize right now, Alexandra. We're so sorry, we didn't mean it. We were drinking, and we got carried away. Please tell him. Tell him you'll forgive us. Xavier looked at Alexandra, his expression softening. Are you ready to hear their apologies? Alexandra looked at the three women who had tormented her for 2 years. Who had made every social event a nightmare. Who had mocked her background, her clothes, her very existence. And now stood before her begging for mercy. She thought about saying yes. Thought about being the bigger person. Thought about letting it go. But then she looked down at her ruined dress. The dress she had saved for. The dress she had been so excited to wear. The dress that now hung in shreds around her body. No, she said quietly, her voice growing stronger. Am not ready. Xavier nodded. Then you don't have to be. He turned back to the three women. You want forgiveness, earn it. But that starts with consequences. Over the next 15 minutes, as Alexandra watched from the safety of her husband's arms, Xavier made his calls. He called his head of security, and had the three women escorted from the premises. With instructions that they were banned from all Steele properties, he called his legal team and filed formal charges for assault and destruction of property. He called his HR director, and initiated reviews of all three women's husbands. For failure to maintain the ethical standards expected of Steele Industries executives. He called the owner of the Meridian Lounge and recommended they review their security, footage and policies on guest behavior. And finally, he called his assistant and instructed her to send a message to every social organization, charity board and exclusive club in Manhattan. Victoria Ashford, Madison Pierce, and Natasha Laurent were no longer welcome at any event attended by, or sponsored, by Xavier and Alexandra Steele. The three women who had been laughing 20 minutes ago now stood in the lobby of the Meridian Lounge, crying, begging, pleading for Xavier to reconsider. Please, Xavier, Victoria sobbed. You'll ruin us, you'll destroy our families over one mistake. One mistake, Xavier repeated coldly. No, this wasn't one mistake. This was years of cruelty. Years of deliberate systematic bullying. This was you choosing to hurt someone weaker than you because you thought you could get away with it. This was you showing your true character. And now you're facing the consequences. But our husbands, Madison cried. They didn't do anything. They married you, Xavier said simply. They built families with you. They presumably knew about your behavior, and did nothing to stop it. That shows a lack of judgment, at minimum. Please, Natasha begged. We have children, think about our children. Xavier looked at her steadily. Did you think about them when you were ripping my wife's dress off her body? Did you consider how your children would feel knowing their mother was a bully? Did you think about the example you were setting? The women had no answer. Security arrived and escorted them out. Still crying, still begging. Xavier turned to Alexandra, who was watching the scene with a mixture of shock, relief, and something that felt like vindication. Let's go home, he said gently. But your partner's deal, she started. Can celebrate without us, Xavier said. Nothing is more important than you, nothing. As they walked through the lobby past the gaping crowd, past the whispers and stares, Xavier kept his arm around Alexandra, protecting her, shielding her. In the car she finally broke down, crying into his chest, releasing 2 years of pain and humiliation. I should have done something sooner, Xavier said, his voice thick with emotion. I should have stopped this. I knew they were cruel to you. And I thought you could handle it. Thought you wanted to handle it yourself. But I should have protected you better. You let me be strong, Alexandra said looking up at him. You let me fight my own battles. And that's one of the reasons I love you. But tonight she paused. Tonight I needed you, and you were there. Always, Xavier said. You'll always be there. Over the next few days, the consequences unfolded. Victoria Ash's husband James was demoted and transferred to a regional office in Montana, effectively ending his Manhattan career. Madison Pierce's husband was let go entirely. After the review revealed multiple ethical violations had been covering up, Natasha Lauren's husband resigned before he could be fired, taking a massive hit to his reputation in the process. The 3 women found themselves social pariahs overnight, their phone calls unreturned, their invitations withdrawn, their places in Manhattan society revoked. They tried to apologize, tried to make amends, but Xavier and Alexandra held firm. Some lessons, Alexandra said. When Victoria showed up at their penthouse begging for forgiveness, need to hurt to be learned. 2 months later, Alexandra received 3 letters. Each was from one of the women. Each was pages long. Each was filled with genuine remorse and reflection. Victoria wrote about how she'd used cruelty to mask her own insecurities, about how she'd been raised to value status over character, and how losing everything had forced her to examine who she really was. Madison wrote about the shame of explaining to her children why they had to move, why their father had lost his job, why their friends weren't calling anymore, and how that shame had been a mirror, forcing her to see her own behavior. Natasha wrote about therapy, about confronting her own bullying, about the work she was doing to become a better person, not to win forgiveness, but because she finally understood that who she had been was unacceptable. Alexandra read the letters carefully, and then called Xavier. What do you think? She asked. I think, Xavier said slowly, that accountability is about growth, not just punishment. I think they've faced real consequences, and maybe learned something. But the question is, have they learned enough? And do you want to give them a chance to prove it? Alexandra thought about it for a long time. She thought about the girl she had been before that night at the Meridian Lounge. The girl who had accepted cruelty as the price of admission to Xavier's world. She thought about the woman she was now. Stronger, more confident, secure in her worth, regardless of what anyone else thought. And she made her decision. She invited the 3 women to lunch, at a small cafe, not one of the exclusive spots they used to frequent, but a normal neighborhood place. They came nervous, uncertain, dressed simply without the designer armor they used to hide behind. Alexandra looked at them, really looked at them, and saw 3 broken, humbled women, who had lost everything, and maybe finally understood why. I forgive you, she said, but that doesn't mean I forget. It doesn't mean we become friends. It doesn't mean things go back to how they were. It means I release you from my anger. And I release myself from your power over me. The 3 women nodded, tears streaming down their faces. Thank you, Victoria whispered. We don't deserve it. No, Alexandra agreed, you don't. But forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing not to carry hate in your heart anymore. Over the next year, the 3 women rebuilt their lives elsewhere. Victoria and her family moved to California, where she started a nonprofit working with bullying victims. Madison went back to school and became a counselor, specializing in helping women with self-esteem issues. Natasha wrote a book about her experience and donated all proceeds to anti-bullying organizations. They sent updates occasionally, not asking for anything, just showing Alexandra that the lesson had stuck, that they were doing the work, and Alexandra wearing whatever she wanted, attending whatever events she chose, confident and secure in who she was, would read the updates and feel satisfied. Not because she had destroyed them, but because she had taught them. Because when you have real power, she told Xavier one night as they sat together in their penthouse, you don't need to wield it like a weapon. You wield it like a teacher, using consequences to create growth, using accountability to inspire change. Xavier pulled her close and kissed her forehead. You know what I realized that night at the Meridian? What? That I didn't marry you despite your ordinary background. I married you because of who you are. Kind, strong, principled, everything they weren't. And look what happened when they challenged you. When they pushed you to your limit. You didn't break. You taught them what real strength looks like. Alexandra smiled. Real strength isn't tearing other people down. It's building yourself up, and when necessary building others up too. Even when they don't deserve it. Especially when they don't deserve it, Xavier agreed. So what do you think? Did Alexandra do the right thing by forgiving them? Or should the consequences have been permanent? What would you have done if someone tore your dress and humiliated you in public? Have you ever been bullied by people who thought they were better than you? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story touched you, if it reminded you that real power comes from character, not cruelty, hit that share button. Let everyone know that bullies always face their karma eventually. And tell me, would you have forgiven them? Or made them pay forever? Drop your answer below. I want to hear what you think.